The crystal wine glass shattered against marble as Sendra Akafu collapsed, convulsing, her curvy body crumpling like silk beneath the horrified gasps of Seoul's most dangerous families. Kang Min-ho watched his wife, the woman he'd married for alliance, ignored for pride, and desired in tormented silence, seize the poisoned chalice meant for his lips. Her dark eyes found his as foam touched her mouth, and something inside him didn't just break. It incinerated. Everything he'd buried, every wall he'd built, every cold word he'd spoken to keep her at arm's length while his heart screamed her name, gone. She was dying, and he'd never told her the truth. Welcome to Afro-Korean Romance, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. The poison had been meant for him. Min-ho dropped to his knees beside Sendra's trembling form, his hands that had killed, that had signed death warrants, that ruled Seoul's underground with ruthless precision, shaking as they cupped her face. Around them, the private dining room of the Kang family estate erupted into chaos. His mother screamed. His father barked orders. Bodyguards drew weapons. But Min-ho saw only her. "Call the doctor, now!" His voice cut through the panic like a blade, cold and absolute. His younger brother Jaewon was already on the phone, but Min-ho didn't wait. He lifted Sendra into his arms, her head lolling against his chest, and strode toward the door. "Min-ho, the authorities," his father began. "I don't care," 3 words, final as a grave. He carried her through corridors lined with priceless art and the history of a crime family that had ruled Korea for 3 generations. None of it mattered. The empire, the power, the carefully constructed distance he'd maintained from this woman for 6 months of marriage ashes. In the car, her pulse fluttered against his fingertips like a dying bird. "Stay with me," he commanded, his voice fracturing. "Sendra, that's an order." Her eyes opened, glassy and unfocused. "You, never use my name," she whispered. Because saying it made her real, made this ache in his chest unbearable. "I'm using it now. Don't you dare leave me." The hospital consumed the next 4 hours in antiseptic terror. Min-ho paced the private wing like a caged animal while doctors pumped her stomach, while his family's personal physician administered treatments, while his world balanced on the edge of a knife. His second-in-command, Tae-sung, appeared at his elbow. "Sir, we've identified the source. The wine was tampered with in the cellar. Someone inside had access." "Find them." Min-ho's voice was dead calm, the kind of calm that preceded bloodshed. "And Tae-sung, when you do, bring them to me breathing. I'll handle the rest personally." By dawn, Sendra was stable. Min-ho stood at her bedside, watching her sleep, memorizing the curve of her cheek, the fullness of her lips, the way her natural curls spread across the pillow. She was beautiful, dangerously, devastatingly beautiful, and he'd treated her like a piece of furniture for half a year. The marriage had been arranged, a merger between the Kang syndicate and her father's powerful African diplomatic connections. A political move. She'd arrived in Seoul 6 months ago, walked down the aisle in white silk, and he'd looked at her and felt the ground shift beneath his feet. So he'd done what any man terrified of his own heart would do. He'd ignored her. Spoke to her only when necessary, kept separate bedrooms, attended functions with her on his arm but never touched her beyond what appearances required. Let his family treat her like an outsider while he built walls so high he thought they'd keep him safe. Instead, they'd nearly killed her. Her eyes opened as morning light filtered through the blinds. Dark, beautiful eyes that had watched him from across dinner tables and empty rooms, that had learned not to hope for warmth from the husband who couldn't stop wanting her. "You're here," she said, surprise evident. Each word was a knife. Where else would I be? "I thought, after the dinner, you'd go back to work, you always do." He moved closer, unable to help himself. "You took poison meant for me." She looked away. "The glass was closer to you. I saw something in the wine, just a shimmer. I reacted." "You could have died." "Better me than you." Her voice was so soft, so resigned. "Your family needs you. The organization needs you. I'm just..." "Just what?" The words came out harsh. "Just my wife, just the woman I swore to protect." Sendra's eyes snapped back to his, wide with shock. In 6 months, he'd never claimed her as anything beyond a contractual obligation. Min-ho. Don't. He turned away, jaw clenched. Rest, we'll talk later. But later came sooner than either expected. The following evening, as Sendra recovered in the master's suite, Min-ho had moved her there over her protests. The investigation concluded. The culprit was revealed in his study, brought before him bound and terrified. Lee Sang-woo, his father's business rival, a man who'd infiltrated their staff months ago with a singular mission: eliminate the Kang heir. Min-ho stood before him, expressionless. Behind him, Tae-sung waited with silent anticipation. But Min-ho's mind was upstairs, with the woman who'd nearly died because of his world, his life, his enemies. You targeted my wife instead. I didn't know she'd drink it. The gun was in Min-ho's hand before the man finished stammering. But he didn't fire. Instead, he lowered the weapon with eerie calm. Death is too quick. You'll wish I'd killed you when I'm done. He nodded to Tae-sung. Lock him in the south building. I'll deal with him when I'm ready. First, I need to handle something more important. He took the stairs 2 at a time. Sendra was standing by the window when he entered, wrapped in silk, her curvy silhouette backlit by city lights. She turned, startled. You should be resting. I'm fine. They said the worst has passed. She studied him with those too perceptive eyes. Did you find who did it? Yes. And I realized something. He moved closer, drawn like gravity. You saved my life. Anyone would have. No, he was in front of her now, close enough to catch her subtle perfume. Not anyone, you, the wife I've ignored, the woman I married and kept at a distance. You threw yourself into danger for me. Sendra's breath hitched. Min-ho, what are you? Why did you do it? His hand rose, fingertips grazing her cheek. The first time he'd touched her gently in months. Why save a man who's treated you like a stranger? Her eyes glistened. Because you're my husband, because despite everything She stopped herself, turning away. But he caught her wrist, pulled her back. Say it. It doesn't matter. It's all that matters. His other hand cupped her face, tilting her gaze to his. Say it, Sendra. A tear slipped free. Because I love you. I've loved you since the wedding. Since you first looked at me and I saw something flicker in your eyes before you locked it away. I've loved you through every cold word, every empty night, every family dinner where you pretended I didn't exist. So yes, I took the poison, because losing you would hurt more than dying. The world stopped. Min-ho stared at this woman, this incredible, impossible woman, and every defense he'd built crumbled to dust. I've been a fool, he breathed. Min-ho, I ignored you because you terrified me. The confession ripped from somewhere deep. From the moment I saw you, I knew you could destroy me, that if I let myself feel even a fraction of what I felt, I'd lose control. I'd become weak, vulnerable, so I pushed you away, hurt you, kept you at a distance while I burned for you every single night. Her lips parted in shock. And then you almost died, and I realized the only thing that truly terrifies me is a world without you in it. He kissed her then, pulling her against him with desperate need. She melted into him, her soft curves fitting perfectly against his hard frame, and Min-ho felt something fundamental shift. This wasn't the controlled, cold man who'd ruled an empire with an iron fist. This was something raw and primal and utterly hers. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. I'm sorry, he whispered. For every moment I wasted, for every hurt, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Min-ho, her fingers traced his jaw, just don't push me away again. Never. He kissed her again, softer this time but no less intense. You're mine, Sendra. You've been mine since the moment you walked down that aisle. I was just too afraid to claim you. That night, as Seoul glittered beyond the windows, Min-ho carried his wife to bed and showed her without words everything he'd kept locked inside. The passion, the need, the desperate longing. They came together in a tangle of silk and skin and whispered promises, the world fatting until nothing existed but them. When Sendra woke the next morning, she was wrapped in Min-ho's arms, his body curved protectively around hers. She'd expected, feared, he might regret the night. That morning would bring back the cold, distant husband. Instead, his eyes opened, dark and intense, and he pulled her closer. "Good morning, wife." The possessiveness in those two words sent heat through her veins. "Good morning, husband." His lips curved, a rare, genuine smile that transformed his severe features. "I could get used to waking up like this." "Then maybe you should move your things in here permanently." "Already done. I had staff transfer everything while you slept." Sendra laughed, surprised and delighted. "Presumptuous." "Practical," he kissed her shoulder. "You're stuck with me now." But reality intruded over breakfast. Min-ho's father called a family meeting, his mother's disapproving gaze heavy as they entered the dining room together, Min-ho's hand possessively at the small of Sendra's back. "We need to discuss last night's incident," his father began. "It was an assassination attempt," Min-ho corrected coldly. "Against me. Sendra nearly died protecting me. I'd say that warrants more than calling it an incident." His mother sniffed delicately. "Still, perhaps it's time to reconsider the marriage. This alliance has brought nothing but trouble." "The alliance stands." Min-ho's voice cut like steel. "And if anyone in this family has a problem with my wife, they'll answer to me directly." Shocked silence. His younger brother Jaewon grinned. "About time you admitted you're crazy about her." "Jaewon," their mother warned. "No, he's right." Min-ho turned to Sendra, his expression softening. "I am, and everyone needs to understand that clearly. Sendra isn't just my wife in name, she's everything. Anyone who threatens her, insults her, or makes her feel unwelcome answers to me. Are we clear?" Around the table, heads nodded, some reluctant, some surprised, but all acknowledging the shift in power. The following week brought changes that rippled through the organization. Min-ho was no longer the untouchable, cold boss. He still commanded with absolute authority, but now he left meetings early. Took calls from Sendra in the middle of negotiations. Had her car followed by security details that would make a president jealous. The underworld noticed. "You've gone soft," Tae-sung observed one afternoon. Min-ho didn't look up from the security reports. "I've gotten focused. There's a difference." "The men are talking. They say love makes you weak." Now Min-ho raised his eyes, and the look in them could have frozen blood. "Then the men are welcome to test that theory. See how weak I am when it comes to protecting what's mine." Tae-sung smiled grimly. "I'll pass that along." That evening, Min-ho returned home early, another new habit, and found Sendra in the garden, reading. She looked up as his shadow fell across her page and smiled. That smile, it undid him every time. "You're home." "Where else would I be?" He sat beside her, pulling her close. "I have a question." "Okay." "There's a charity gala this weekend. Major families, business leaders, some politicians. I want you beside me, as my wife. Not just for show, but because I need everyone to know exactly where we stand." Sendra's eyes sparkled. "Are you asking me on a date, Kang Min-ho?" "I'm telling you you're mine, and I want the world to know it. But yes, call it a date if you like." She laughed, and the sound filled something in him he hadn't known was empty. The gala arrived, draped in diamonds and danger. Sendra descended the grand staircase of their estate in a gown that made Min-ho forget how to breathe, deep emerald silk that hugged every curve, with a neckline that was elegant yet devastating. Her natural curls were styled in soft waves, and emeralds glittered at her throat. His emeralds. He'd had them delivered that afternoon with a simple note, "You outshine them." "You're starring," she said softly as she reached him. "I'm appreciating." He offered his arm, his other hand settling possessively at her waist, "and preparing to break the fingers of every man who looks at you tonight." She smiled, but he wasn't entirely joking. The Grand Millennium Hotel ballroom glittered with Seoul's elite. Min-ho felt eyes track them as they entered, speculation, surprise, calculation. He'd attended dozens of these events with Sendra on his arm, cold and distant. Tonight was different. Tonight, he couldn't stop touching her. A hand at her back, fingers intertwined with hers, pulling her close when someone approached. The message was clear. She wasn't just decoration. She was his. Min-ho SSI? A smooth voice interrupted. Choi Di-young, a rival family's heir, approached with predatory interest focused entirely on Sendra. You've been hiding this beautiful woman. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. Min-ho's jaw clenched. My wife, Sendra. And we're not hiding anything. Mrs. Kang. Di-young took her hand, holding it too long, his thumb brushing her skin. Enchanted. Perhaps you'd honor me with a dance. Your husband is always so busy with business. She's occupied. Min-ho's voice dropped to dangerous levels as he reclaimed Sendra's hand, pulling her against his side. Permanently. Di-young smiled, unbothered. Possessive, how unexpected from the Ice King himself. After he left, Sendra touched Min-ho's chest, feeling his heart race beneath expensive fabric. Are you okay? No, I want to remove every man's eyes from this room. Min-ho. I know I'm being irrational, he exhaled slowly. I've never felt this before, jealousy, he struggled for words. Violent. She rose on her toes, whispering near his ear. Then maybe you should take me home and show me exactly how possessive you feel. Heat flared in his eyes. Don't tempt me, I'll cause a scandal. Would that be so terrible? Before he could answer, the lights flickered. Once, twice. Min-ho's instincts activated instantly. He pulled Sendra behind him, scanning the room. T-sung appeared at his elbow, phone pressed to his ear, face grim. Sir, we have a problem. Talk. Security breach. 3 unidentified individuals entered through the kitchen, armed. The lights went out completely. Screams erupted. In the chaos and darkness, Min-ho's only thought was Sendra. He wrapped her in his arms, pulling her down behind a table as gunfire exploded overhead. Stay down, he commanded against her ear. What's happening? Retaliation for Sangwoo. He should have known, should have anticipated. I need to get you out. But bodies pressed from all sides as the crowd panicked. More gunfire. Closer now. Min-ho shielded Sendra with his body, feeling her tremble beneath him, not from fear, he realized, but fury. This is because of what happened to me, she said. They're targeting you because you went after them. I'd do it again. He cupped her face in the darkness, 1,000 times over. Emergency lights kicked on, casting everything in red. Min-ho pulled Sendra toward the side exit where T-sung and 2 other guards materialized. Cars waiting, T-sung reported. They moved as a unit, Min-ho keeping Sendra close. But as they reached the corridor, a figure stepped from the shadows. Di-young, with a gun pointed directly at them. I warned the elders you were becoming a liability, Min-ho. His voice was calm, almost regretful. Love makes men weak, predictable. Your father would have never left himself vulnerable like this. This isn't about my father. Min-ho stepped in front of Sendra completely. This is about you trying to seize power. Smart and sentimental, tragic combination. Di-young's eyes flicked to Sendra. She's beautiful, I'll give you that. Almost worth dying for. Almost, Min-ho smiled coldly. That's where you're wrong, she's worth killing for, and that's exactly what I'm about to do. The movement was so fast, Di-young barely registered it. Min-ho drew the concealed weapon from his jacket, fired twice. Di-young dropped, clutching his shoulder, his gun clattering away. Non-fatal, Min-ho observed clinically as his men secured the wounded rival. I'm feeling generous tonight. My wife doesn't need to see me kill a man. He looked at T-sung. Clean this up. I'm taking her home. In the car, Sendra was silent. Min-ho watched her, concerned, his hand finding hers. Talk to me. You shot him. He pointed a gun at you. I'd have done much worse if we were alone. She turned to him, eyes bright with unshed tears. This is your life, constant danger, people trying to kill you, and now me. Yes, no point in lying. I knew when I married you, I knew what your family was, but seeing it, her voice cracked. Min-ho, I can't lose you, and you can't keep throwing yourself in front of bullets for me. He pulled her across the seat onto his lap, cradling her against his chest. That's not negotiable. Your safety comes before everything, before the organization, before my life, everything. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, but this. He tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his intense gaze. This is non-negotiable. You're mine to protect, mine to keep safe, mine to love, and I will burn down Seoul itself before I let anyone hurt you again. The tears fell then, and he kissed them away, tasting salt and fear and love. When his lips found hers, the kiss was desperate, claiming, a promise written in passion. By the time they reached the estate, need had consumed rational thought. Min-ho carried Sendra straight to their bedroom, kicking the door closed behind them. They came together with urgent intensity, hands and hearts seeking reassurance that they were both alive, both safe, both here. Clothes fell like leaves. Whispered promises filled the darkness. When Min-ho finally made love to his wife, it was with a reverence that bordered on worship, showing her with every touch, every kiss, every breathless moment exactly how deeply she'd embedded herself in his soul. Afterward, she lay wrapped in his arms, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat steady. I love you, she whispered. I love you more than I thought possible. His fingers traced patterns on her bare shoulder, which is why tomorrow things change. She propped herself up, concerned. What do you mean? I mean I'm stepping back from active operations. T-Sung can handle day-to-day. I'm still in charge, but I'm not putting you through constant danger. You deserve better than a husband who comes home with blood on his hands. Min-ho. My mind is made up. He pulled her back down, kissing her forehead. You're my priority now, everything else is secondary. But morning brought complications, neither expected. Sendra woke to an empty bed and voices raised downstairs. She threw on a robe and descended to find Min-ho facing his father in the study, tension crackling between them. You can't be serious, the elder Kang was saying. Stepping back now shows weakness. The families will circle like sharks. Let them circle. Min-ho's voice was steel. I've given this organization 20 years. I'm not abandoning it, I'm restructuring my involvement. Sendra is pregnant. The world tilted. Sendra gripped the doorframe, shock coursing through her. Pregnant? She'd been feeling off lately, tired, slightly nauseous, but she'd attributed it to stress. Min-ho turned, seeing her. His expression softened immediately. Sendra. Pregnant, she whispered. He crossed to her in 3 strides, taking her hands. The doctor called this morning. The blood work from the hospital after the poisoning, they ran comprehensive tests. You're 6 weeks along. 6 weeks, just after they'd finally come together. I was going to tell you, he said softly, searching her face. But my father arrived, and are you okay? How do you feel about this? How did she feel? Terrified, overjoyed? Overwhelmed. I'm going to be a mother, she breathed. And I'm going to be a father. His hands moved to her still flat stomach with wonder. Our child, Sendra, this changes everything. You can't protect them by hiding, his father interjected harshly. The world knows she's your wife. The baby will be a target regardless. Better to maintain strength than show vulnerability. I'm not hiding. Min-ho's eyes never left Sendra's. I'm adapting, there's a difference. Over the following weeks, true to his word, Min-ho restructured his role. T-Sung became operational head, while Min-ho focused on strategy and high-level decisions, work he could do from home, with Sendra beside him. The underworld grumbled but adapted. Rivals tested boundaries and learned quickly that a protective Min-ho was far more dangerous than a distant one. 2 families who attempted leverage using Sendra's pregnancy as a pressure point simply disappeared, quietly, completely. No one asked questions. Sendra bloomed. The pregnancy suited her, made her glow, and Min-ho became almost unbearable in his attentiveness. He monitored her diet, installed security that would rival a fortress, attended every doctor's appointment, and read parenting books with the same intensity he'd once applied to hostile takeovers. "You're going to be an amazing father," Sendra told him one evening as they lay together, his hand on her growing belly. "I'm terrified," he admitted. "What if I'm too much like my father, too cold?" "You're nothing like him." She guided his hand to where the baby kicked. "Feel that. That's our child. They're going to know nothing but love from you. I've seen who you really are, Min-ho. Under all the armor and ice, you're the most loving man I know." The baby kicked again, and Min-ho's expression transformed with wonder and something that looked suspiciously like tears. 4 months later, Min-ho knelt in the same garden where Sendra had once read alone, presenting a ring that made her original wedding band look modest. "I know we're already married," he said, voice rough with emotion. "But that wedding was arranged. Political. I want to do this right. Sendra Akafu, love of my life, mother of my child, the woman who saved me in every way possible. Will you marry me again? Let me give you the wedding you deserve, the vows I should have spoken the first time." She was crying, nodding, pulling him up to kiss him. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The second wedding was intimate, just close family and friends who'd supported them. Min-ho's mother had softened considerably, especially after Sendra had defended her during a particularly vicious society dinner, verbally eviscerating a rival family's matriarch who dared insult the Kang name. Jaewon served as best man, grinning throughout. "Never thought I'd see you this happy, brother." "Neither did I," Min-ho admitted, watching Sendra laugh with friends, radiant in white, her belly round with their daughter. "I didn't think I deserved it." "You didn't," Jaewon teased. "But you found someone who loved you anyway, don't screw it up." "Never again." When Min-ho recited his vows, written himself, from the heart, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. "I was a fool who thought strength meant isolation. You taught me that real power is vulnerability, real courage is love. You saved my life twice, once with poison, once with patience. I vow to spend every day proving worthy of both. I vow to protect you, cherish you, and love you until my last breath. You and our daughter are my world. Everything I am, everything I have is yours." Sendra's vows were equally powerful, her voice steady despite tears. "You were worth waiting for, worth fighting for, worth saving. I vow to stand beside you through every storm, to love you on good days and bad, to remind you who you are when the world tries to make you forget. You're not just my husband, you're my home. And I choose you, today and always." Their daughter arrived 3 months later during a winter storm, entering the world with a powerful cry that made Min-ho laugh through tears. He held his girls, both of them, and felt complete in a way he'd never imagined possible. "She has your eyes," Sendra whispered, exhausted but glowing. "And your strength," he kissed them both, "my perfect girls." They named her Minji, Hope. A year later, the Kang estate hosted a celebration for Minji's first birthday. The garden was filled with family, friends, and allies. Min-ho watched Sendra move through the crowd with their daughter on her hip, laughing, radiant, completely at ease in a world that had once seemed determined to reject her. Taesung approached, champagne in hand. "Quite a change from 2 years ago." "Everything changed." Min-ho accepted a glass, his eyes never leaving his wife. "I almost lost it all before I realized what I had. The organization is stronger than ever, you know. Your father won't admit it, but even he sees it. A man fighting for something is more dangerous than a man with nothing to lose." Min-ho smiled. "I have everything to lose now. That's exactly what makes me lethal." As if sensing his gaze, Sendra looked over and smiled. That smile that still undid him every single time. She whispered something to Minji, who giggled and reached tiny hands toward her father. Min-ho crossed to them immediately, taking his daughter and pulling Sendra close. "Happy?" she asked. "Dangerously so," he kissed her temple. "I keep waiting for the universe to balance the scales." "Stop waiting for disaster. We earned this. We fought for this." She was right. They'd survived poison, bullets, family politics, and his own stubborn fear. They'd chosen each other again and again until choosing became breathing. That evening, after the guests departed and Minji slept peacefully in her nursery, Min-ho and Sendra stood on their balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked. "The danger, the action." "No," his answer was immediate. "I miss nothing that takes me away from you and Minji. This," he gestured to the sleeping city, "I still control, but I do it from here with you beside me. That's all I need." Sendra turned in his arms, rising on her toes to kiss him. "I love you, Kang Min-ho." "I love you more, Mrs. Kang." He deepened the kiss, tasting home and future and everything that mattered. "Thank you." "For what?" "For taking the poison, for saving me, for loving me when I didn't deserve it, for giving me Minji, for making me human again." She smiled against his lips. "You did the same for me. I was so alone before you finally let me in." "Never again." His arms tightened. "You're stuck with me for eternity." "Promise." "Promise." Above them, stars wheeled in silent witness. Below, Seoul breathed and lived, unaware that its most dangerous king had been conquered by love. Inside, their daughter dreamed innocent dreams. Protected by parents who'd learned that the greatest strength wasn't power or control. It was choosing each other, again and again, through poison and bullets and all the beautiful, terrifying moments in between. Min-ho had spent years building an empire on fear and respect. But standing there with Sendra in his arms, their child sleeping peacefully nearby, he finally understood the truth. He hadn't truly lived until she'd saved him. And he'd spend the rest of his life making sure she never regretted it. The Korean Mafia boss who'd once ruled with ice in his veins had been melted by a curvy, courageous woman who'd taken poison meant for him and stolen his heart in the process. It was a dangerous love story written in dark ink and bright hope, proving that even in the deadliest of worlds, love could not only survive, it could conquer everything. Their story wasn't a fairy tale, it was better. It was real, hard-won, precious. And it was theirs.